So you join me at the end of this this canvas. The reason that I don't really ever film myself doing canvas is because it's such a tricky business. It's so fiddly. Like what I'm doing at the moment is I'm going over all the bits that either I've missed or the paint hasn't sat right on the canvas. And to be honest, a lot of it's fine because I'm not that interested in a completely clean graphic look. But some bits are worse than others. And and so I'm just sort of hitting a few places. I'm also just adding bits. So I just thought I'll do a quick video and chat while I'm just doing these bits. So I did a video recently about being creatively blocked. I'm a bit creatively blocked at the moment. I'm a bit burnt out. You know, artists get burnt out every so often because we're busy doing commission work and stuff like that, and before we know it, we've done too much. Too much has been done. We've burnt out, and well, I'm saying burnt out, like, you know, burnout is very extreme. We've got bored and frustrated. Lost our motivation, perhaps. Got to be careful here because I've slightly. No, that's fine. I don't want to go over this spray very much, but that's all right. That's okay. Yeah, we've got in a bit of a pickle, you know, as we would say in the UK. We've got in a bit of a pickle, and suddenly we don't want to. You see, the problem with getting blocked is that we've got to a state where we don't want to do it anymore. And this is something that you do for pleasure, right? Hopefully. This is something you do because you like it. You know, there's enough difficulty in the world without turning something you like into a massive difficulty as well. I think it's genuinely, for an artist, it's genuinely like torturous sometimes to get blocked, because that's what it can feel like. It can feel like, oh, great. So, you know, generally my life is very difficult, but I had this thing I really like doing. And now I don't like doing that either, you know, and that's a very tough reality, I think. That's a really tough reality to have to face. So anyway, watch the video. Watch the video if you didn't already see it, and watch what I have to say about it, because I offer some hard and fast rules about what to do and what not to do. Now, all I'm doing here, I'm just adding little bits, little tiny details that might add something. Somebody once said to me, you can't put the details up front, right? You can't just do a bunch of details and expect that to create a piece of art. However, once you've created a piece of art, the details will sell it. And honestly, yeah, I think that's pretty good advice. That's a pretty good say-so, I would say. I'd agree with that. Now, what you don't want to do, what you really don't want to do, and I have done this. In fact, I was looking at a piece just the other day. I was flipping through some old, what was it on? It was on Instagram. I was looking for some stuff on Instagram. Oh, that's dead. Hang on. Not that one. There we go. That's the one. I really shouldn't keep dyeing pens around, but they can come in very useful, as some of you will know. I was flipping through Instagram the other day. Now, oh, okay. Quick note here. When you're doing canvas, it's very important not to stick your hands straight through wet paint. Otherwise, you're going to make a mess. Now, I've just got to have a look, see if that's... I can't see from this angle if it's gone. It's nearly dried, that stuff I've just done. So I'm going to give it a whiz. So, yeah, I was looking for Instagram. And I was seeing some old pieces and thinking, oh, that's all right. Yeah, it's not bad. Not bad at all. Then I came across this piece, which started with such promise. And it was a really nice concept and it was all right. And I completely over-egged it. I totally overdid it, you know, just slapped too much in there, essentially too much detail. That's what it was. There was too much detail and it was just a mess. And it's gutting to do that because, you know, you just spent hours doing this particular piece and now essentially you've wrecked it because you've done too much. Now, working with paint markers like I'm doing at the moment, it is a tiny bit more forgiving. A tiny bit more. Never bank on it, right? Never bank on it. But the good news about paint markers is paint, you can go over stuff. So if all else fails, if it really goes wrong, you might be able to go over it and correct it. You might. But like I say, don't bank on it because sometimes it does not go that way. Particularly, I might add, if you're using the colour yellow, because yellow does not cover very well. I only put 2 coats on this, by the way, and it looks a bit patchy in places. Now, again, it depends how much of a perfectionist you are about this sort of stuff. If you love graphic work, like if you want your work to be really graphic, and by graphic, I mean the lines are all very hard and they're beautifully defined and how else can I define graphic work? I mean, this essentially is graphic work. It's quite graphic. But if you look at it up close, it's a bit more what you might... I couldn't call this painterly, actually. I was going to say it's painterly. It's not painterly. Painterly is where you get things like thick, really thick daubs of paint, big, thick, obvious brush strokes. This is a bit more painterly around there. On the tentacle, I've done it a lot more loose, shall we say. Loose. This, the rest of it, is tight. It's tight. The lines are tight. They're thick and graphic, and everything's well defined. It's all complete, you know, complete outline, stuff like that. Graphic, really, really graphic. If you like working like that, and generally I do, but I don't give myself a hard time about it, you know, because frankly, it's not worth it. Sorry, I just realised you probably couldn't see that. Got to see what I'm doing. It's just, you know, life is too short. By the way, I'll tell you a story of my younger creative self. So I was probably, I don't know, I was probably a teen at the time. What would I be? Yeah, I would have been about 18, 19, that kind of age. And hang on, I'll make sure you can see this. I'm going to do some stuff down the bottom. Oh, this is really tricky. Okay. Yeah, I was about 18, 19, and I was working in black and white a lot. Outlines, black book stuff, that kind of thing. And the work was getting very intricate. Fine lines, you know, lots of fine line work. Detail. Again, detail. Detail could be amazing, right? You know, we want detail. We don't not want detail. The only problem with it is if you start to get obsessed with this stuff, you start to get the same problem again, which is you can become obsessed to the point where you just won't let stuff go. Or you start to get stuck. I've always found that the hardest bit of any illustration for me, the hardest part and the hardest bit is always the beginning. Because it's a mess, particularly in a painting. Because all you're doing is laying down base colour most of the time on a painting. So it doesn't look like this when I start. It's a mess. It's a real, I mean, some would say this is a mess. But when I lay it down initially, it's a real mess. It's, you know, it's dirty, there's no outlines on it. And I can't really tell if it's going to work or not. And it bothers me. You know, that really gets under my skin. It's a bit like, for those of you who live somewhere which is a building site, you know, if work is being done on your house and that kind of stuff absolutely does my nut. Like, it really does my nut. I really struggle with it. I hate any kind of work being done on my house because it's chaos, right? And you need that, right? You need it. And at the same time, it's horrible. It's really not nice. And I'm always in a hurry. By the way, I'm the same on the wall. I'm exactly the same on the wall. I want to get something down very quick. It's got to be. I've got to get something on the wall that looks like the final piece. What I mean by that is, if I'm doing a character, which I mostly am, of course, because I'm a character artist generally, I need to get, like, probably the eyes. That's the main one. If I get the eyes done, and finished as well, by the way, finished, and I'm talking like right near the beginning of the piece, then I am much happier. Much happier. Because I can see it and I can see what it might shape up to be. Just lifts my confidence a little bit, you know. I see it and I go, right, okay, yeah, I'm definitely in the right ballpark here. This is good. And if I don't do that, I lose confidence very quickly. Because I can't see it. I just can't see if it's going to work or not. So I need to see it. This is the kind of thing, by the way, that makes people pack it in. Because art is difficult. It's hard. It's hard work. It's, you know, it's the sort of hard work that we like, of course, but this is what I'm talking about. When you stop liking it, when it just becomes a sort of an endless, difficult task that you find is sort of tricky and not very rewarding, and you feel that you're not doing very well, and, you know, all that just becomes torture. And at that point, you're in danger of giving up. You want to pack it in. Which is why it's important to know how to deal with all that when you're faced with it. You know, it's horrible. Really, really horrible. Watch the video is all I can say. Go and have a look. A lot of you have already watched it. I know I've had some queries about it already, so that's good. Glad to help, trust me, because it is no fun. Oh, I've got to be careful here. Don't put. See, it doesn't help. I'm one of them people. I tend to work quite chaotically. Now, there's a rule when you paint, and the rule goes like, depending on whether you're right-handed or left-handed. Now, if you're left-handed, you start at the right-hand side, and the reason you do that is because then you're not dragging your left hand through the paint. If you're right-handed, really, you should be working left to right. Now, what you're seeing me doing is I'm working all over the place, which I'm doing it because I'm at the end of the canvas. But really, this is just bad habits on my part, because the thing is, you should never really do it, because these white highlights, it'd be so easy just to drag my hand straight through them. And by the way, I did that several times. yesterday when I was working on the bulk of this piece, and it is annoying. It is annoying when you go, oh, flipping heck, you know, and I've got to redo it. In fact, these little vertebrae down here, I did it on them. I just done them all nice and everything, and managed to drag my hand straight through them, which was a bit annoying. Put some little highlights on his head. I wasn't really going to do that, but there you go. So it works quite well. Yeah, I've got a mate. I've talked about him before. My friend Icon. We used to go out a lot back in the day, and I loved Icon's art. Always loved it. Loved what he did with characters, particularly characters actually. His letter work was very geometric and I was never that keen, but his character work was just like just beautiful, so imaginative and funny, you know, witty. Oh look, I found some bits I've missed. Oh no, this is dangerous because this is down here, so I've got to be careful I don't drag my hand again. There we go, that pink's dried, that's okay. Yeah, so Icon exactly had this problem, right? His problem was he became obsessed with two things. Firstly, the neatness of his work, and secondly, the fact that he couldn't seem to quite get down what he wanted to get down. As in, he couldn't translate directly from his head onto the page, and it drove him really mad. And in the end, he stopped doing art. And he was one of them guys that inspired me to do art. So obviously I found that really difficult that he'd given up, because I was like, no, you're the guy. You've got to keep going. But he was done. He was finished. He didn't want to do it anymore. We talked about it the other day, actually. We were chatting about it the other day, because I'd love to see him do stuff again. Okay, now this is the way you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to work here and work through. So I'm going to do these bubbles here, doing highlights on these bubbles. You might notice as well, just as a quick aside, which is I am not doing the same highlight on the bubbles. I'm doing different ones. I'm changing it up every so often. Variation. Yeah, so I don't think there's much chance of Icon ever returning to, well, certainly not to graph, but to art generally. Ain't gonna happen. He's done. He's done with it, which I just think it's a shame. He was so good at it. Like we say, you know, art is tricky. It's not an easy thing to do, and it requires a lot of effort and it requires a lot of time. I mean, anybody, let's have a think, what age can I say? I think anybody over the age of, I'm going to plump for an age here, and you can all argue me down on it if you like, but anybody over the age of 40, you're going to have a million other things to do, right? Other than sit down and do some artwork. There's a load of other stuff to be done. And there's a load of, you know, either your kids or your missus are going to be very quick to tell you as well. So you're not going to find time sometimes. And personally, you know, this is kind of how I stay sane, this stuff. Oh look, this is really good actually. This is really good because I'm seeing all the little bits that I've missed. Okay, just worked chaotically again, so now I don't know. See, this is why you don't do this. This is, you know, kids at home, don't work chaotically because you'll forget. Sometimes what I do, by the way, when I do this, and I can't remember what's wet and what's not, is I lay this down very carefully, like that, and I put my hand on that and rest on that. It's not rocket science, but it will stop you just smudging everything and killing it, just in case. Tricky line, there we go. Okay. This is all what we might call snagging, this work. This is a test sheet, by the way. You need one of these. You can see that I've tried out all my colours on there, got the colours going, making sure I've got a good flow, that kind of stuff, jabbing it about, trying a bit of spray, all that. You always need a little tester sheet there. But yeah, you might call this snagging. This is all like final touches. How can I just sort of add a bit more without, like I say, without over egging the pudding. Oh yes, you work top down as well. Generally, you should work top down, because I've just done something down here, which means that if I start working up here, I'm going to drag my arm straight through it, and it's going to be a mess. So I've now got to be really careful about that. Got to wait until this bit dries. I've got a bit to do there as well. There we go. This is what I mean by snagging. That line, not quite thick enough. Just thicken that line a little bit. All that sort of stuff. Stuff that I can see, because I've got a low light on it now as well, so I can see reflected the bits that I've missed. Some of them I don't care about, don't mind. Makes no difference. Don't obsess about details that you know will not matter. That's pointless. That highlight there is not big enough. So I've just said, don't obsess about details, don't matter. To me, that one does though. That does matter. It's not large enough. That highlight sells something, so it's got to be larger. Oh, okay. So I'm looking at this now and I'm going, is this done? Does it need more? I think it could just... I think it could stand a little bit more. Just very subtle stuff. Very subtle, like tiny bits and this sort of stuff. Really small. I don't know if you can see it, but sometimes this paint does not go on to the canvas as well as you would like it to, and that's because I've used, I think I used 94 on this to spray it to prime the canvas. I mean, all acrylic spray paint will do the same thing. You know, it'll all have a similar effect. But yeah, it creates a sort of waterproof shell. So acrylics are gonna, sometimes with the first coat of acrylics, it's just gonna be slightly problematic getting it on. I'm gonna put a little tiny, actually let's put that in there. Oh, there's a bit there. See, that's a tiny detail. but I still want to cover that. Quite like to put a little, I put a semi keyline. Working with keylines, let's talk a little bit about keylines. Why not? So don't ever feel with a keyline that you have to cover the whole thing. You don't have to cover the whole thing. What do I mean by that? Well, watch. I'm going to put a little white keyline around a bit of this, but only a bit of it. That bit of it. And the reason I do that is because it will just sort of highlight this little tiny bit, separate it from that sort of whip coming out of there, and add a little bit of emphasis to it, and that is all I need. That's all I want on that. That's it. No more. Again, that's a graphic technique. You know, if you're using realism and stuff like that, you don't use that. You don't use keylines. I've not used a keyline on any of this. I'm wondering if I should. Just looking at it, thinking maybe it would benefit. Maybe. The only problem is if I add a keyline, I don't like it. I mean, I could go in and kill it again if I had to, but I'm not a big fan of keylines on characters, and this is why. In my opinion, keylines on characters flatten them, because a keyline is an artificial illustration technique to do something. I mean, I've just put one on there, and that is in 3 dimensions or everything, but it's sort of, that's a conceit, if you know what I mean by that. Whereas with a character, I just feel it kills a dimension of them. I mean, you know, feel free to disagree with me if you're of that persuasion. But for me, hang on. I'm doing a bit of highlighting here that I hadn't planned, which is always dangerous. Yeah, for me, keylines flatten characters. I don't like them. I don't much like them. And sometimes if you work on a production wall and everyone's done a keyline, then your character might look a bit out of place because no keyline. So sometimes your hand is forced. But if I can help it, I will avoid the keyline generally, or do a partial keyline. That's what I've done sometimes on stuff. I do partial keylines because that's a nice compromise, to do a partial keyline. Does that dry up there now? I think it is. Yeah, do like I've done on there. Do a partial keyline on a little bit of it. There. Okay. Right. I'm wondering, or maybe I'll just. It's at this stage. It really is like about the fine detail. This kind of thing. Tiny bits of something. And you'll notice as well, you know, same thing. I'm not feeling any obligation to go around and blitz the whole lot in this. Don't need it. Just a bit here, a bit there. Less is more. I haven't said it yet this video. I say it a lot. Less is more, right? Okay. I'm just about ready to call that done. So far as I can tell, that is now finito. So I hope you enjoyed that, guys. Any questions, you can always ask me. Actually, you've been asking me a lot of questions recently, which is good. I encourage it. Lots of questions about process, lots of questions about materials, all that sort of stuff. Always happy to answer them. Some are in videos that I've done already. I don't mind. Just ask me. Ask me whatever. I don't mind. I never mind. So so there you go. That's a bit of final snagging on canvas work. Hope you enjoyed that, and a chat about process. See you in the next one.